Kevin De Bruyne has obviously had his injury troubles this year with Man City. His contract's up at the end of the season. He's now believed to have held talks with San Diego FC over a free transfer this summer. Do you think it's Man City unlikely to try and keep him, given his high wages and the potential offer is maybe going to be made?
Well, so there's a few complexities to it. So I think the first one is the Club World Cup. The second phase of Club World Cup is post the expiry of his contract on the 30th of June, which I think is a bit of a complexity. I assume that he would want to play and City would want to have him for that tournament. It may even be a shop window for him, especially if he wants to go to the States. But likewise, you would think he's not going to wait much longer in terms of deciding what he's going to do. Now, I think he played better for Belgium than he has in numerous games for City recently. And clearly, if Pep doesn't really rate him anymore for fitness reasons and everything else, then he has no future at City. So I don't know. I mean, there has been talk that he wants to stay and therefore would agree something. Clearly, he's not going to get, I think he's on something, best part of 400 grand a week. So he's not going to get anywhere near that in a renewal. The deal with San Diego, as I understand it, they all need to be dealt with at the senior level, at the MLS level. And the one thing they have in the MLS is complete transparency on wages. They actually publish every player's wage. And they don't get paid as well as you might think. I mean, San Diego do not have any players at all on anywhere near even $10 million a year. So I don't know. The San Diego rumours have been there for a long time. I assume that part of De Bruyne's interest is not purely about money, because we know that he could go to Saudi Arabia for 2 years and probably earn, I would think, probably, let's say, 25 million, certainly dollars a year, maybe even pounds for 2 years. So that, if he was after money, that would be easy for him. So I think MLS would be a good destination, but it's hard to say what the deal would be or when he's going to sign it or how City deal with this Club World Cup or how he deals with the Club World Cup. You would think that he would want to be there for the Club World Cup. But I don't know. Just one of the complexities of having a Club World Cup that sort of moves over the typical dates of contract expiry for footballers.
Mm. In terms of potential incomings for City, Southampton now reportedly want more than £100 million for Man City target, and Spurs are believed to be interested in Tyler Diblin. Does that valuation seem too high for him, given he's only just new into the Southampton team?
He doesn't even start every week for Southampton. I think there's zero chance. I mean, there's lots of things you can say are unlikely, but I think this is literally zero chance that anybody's paying £100 million for Dibbling. I think they'd be lucky to get 50. Not because he's not a good player. He does look like a very, very good player and a very good prospect. But it's just not the real world. I mean, I don't know where people think that money's coming from. The teams are being quite restrained at the moment, and there's literally no chance anybody's paying 100.
You mentioned the Club World Cup in terms of De Bruyne. It's now been revealed that the prize on offer for winning it for Man City and Chelsea could be £97 million. That's a huge boost to their finances this season, right? It could make a real difference this summer for them.
Yeah, so it's interesting because if you look at the total prize pot and then how it's broken down, in reality, almost all of it, not almost, a vast majority of it is going to Europe. Okay, so there's 12 teams that have qualified from Europe. One of them is Salzburg, so you can kind of put them to one side. in terms of taking a lot of it. They're gonna only get $12 million participation fee compared to the average, which is probably going to be about 25, and with City and Bayern Munich over 35 just for participation. When you do the maths and kind of break it down, the likelihood is that the European teams win 2 from 3, let's say, of the group games. Maybe not Salzburg, but the most of them. So most of them are going to qualify. Most of them are going to get $4 million for winning 2 games, maybe 5 or 6 million in the group stages. Most of them are going to get the round of 16, $7.5 million. Some of them, maybe 5, let's say, are going to get the quarterfinal $13.5 million. These numbers are going to add up really quickly. Now, that means that a good chunk of those 12 European teams are going to make $40 to $50 million minimum. And 2 or 3 of them are going to make a lot more. And obviously, you would think the winner is coming from Europe. And they are going to take, as you said, $125 million, 100 million pounds. And that is very, very significant, clearly. There are a couple of wrinkles on that, on the cost side, that people just need to think about. It is not cheap to take your entire squad and infrastructure around the squad to the US for an entire month in the summer, staying in 5-star resorts and flying, backwards and forwards first class all over the country. So that is going to be significant cost out of the prize pot. You also have to remember, when comparing this to other tournaments, this is a tournament where the clubs get no match day. So all of the match day is going to FIFA and the venues, and that could be really quite significant money if they can sell out at the ticket prices that have been touted. And then the other part of it is what we just discussed with Kevin De Bruyne. Question how you deal with players who are going over into the new contract year issue if they're expiring. And the other one is, of course, bonuses. And most of these player contracts will not specifically envisage Club World Cup qualification. And so I would think right now, at most of these teams, they are in negotiation as to what the bonus structure looks like. And they'll be doing that mindful of what the clubs are getting. Because the players are saying, right, we're going to effectively give up most of our summer for this. Okay, so this tournament is being held in the time when ordinarily the players would be on holiday. And we know that players don't get long holidays, but this is the time. I mean, they'd do the international game in the early part of June, which I think is still going ahead ridiculously. They'll do that, and then ordinarily what they would do if they didn't have a tournament, if in a tournament off year like this is, they would go off and they'd come back for pre-season training in mid-July. So really what's happening here is the whole of that period, that whole of that mid-June to mid-July is now a tournament. And so that's a big sacrifice for the players. It is dangerous for the players, I think, in terms of physical exertion. They are going to suffer more injuries, you would think, in the next season or so. And they are going to want some compensation for that as part of this bonus structure that's going to come from the tournament. And I think on top of that, the clubs will want to incentivise people properly for this tournament, because I think they'll be aware that if they don't, then the chance of their club capturing those latter stage payments, and they do ramp up. So semi-final is worth, I can't remember off the top of my head, but let's say 20, finalist is worth 30, winning it is worth 40. So these are big numbers once you get into those last 2 or 3 games. And it doesn't apply to everybody, but it definitely applies to City, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, maybe one of the Portuguese teams could sort of, get in there, PSG. So there's a lot of teams that are going to think, we do have a realistic chance of at least getting to the semis or the final. And that's big, big money. And the clubs are going to want to incentivise their players to be keen to do that despite tiredness.